So I'm just going to jump right into it. Starting with you, Akshat, I wanted to hear more from you. You've had extensive experience working across a variety of industries. So what drove you to start ePayLater?
Sure. Thanks, Akshay. You asked me one of my favorite questions. So this was summer of 2015, and there were three of us who were together for a very long time, three friends, and three of us were working in Mumbai. Personally, I was working with a company called TransUnion, Civil, and I was heading their India operations for regarding credit. And this is when I tell myself that I hit the jackpot. I was looking for areas, value chains, where credit has a massive play, yet there is under penetration of credit, rather formal credit. And I didn't have to really look beyond, look very far. I figured out that in the food and groceries value chain, it's a massive value chain. It's 2/3 of entire consumer retail of India. We're talking about big numbers here. We're talking about a few hundreds of billions of dollars here. And there's a lot of play of credit here in the entire value chain, not just between manufacturer and the distributor or brand and distributor, but also between distributor and retailer. Just to share some numbers, the overall consumer retail of India, which is $800 billion large, 2/3 of it is just food and groceries, right? And which is about $550 billion, and about 80% of that is just kirana. And by some estimate, about 70% of entire procurement of kirana is against credit. And so if we do our maths, we're talking about more than $300 billion, roughly 20 lakh crore worth of informal credit flowing into this value chain just in secondary leg. And this is when I along and to both my friends, we told each other that maybe this is going to be our blue ocean. This is where we would really want to build a solution which can transform credit, make it more friendly, more consumable, more democratic, and more inclusive. And that's how ePayLater started.
Thanks for that, Akshat. Fairly interesting opportunity to be exploring. I just wanted to go deeper into your answer, right? You've talked about how you were driven to essentially solve downstream credit problems. Could you help me contextualize the challenges that you're solving for distributors and retailers in the CPG ecosystem?
Absolutely. So, in fact, this is what we also tell ourselves. We are a company which is here to solve the trade challenges that are faced by both sides of trade, both distributor as well as retailer. Now, if I were just enumerate a few challenges that we learned and we believe we are solving via ePayLater. So on the retailer side, first, a retailer faces challenges such as, the access to credit itself is a big challenge. Retailers do get access to loans, but, for them to drive better commerce, they need a trade credit facility, which unfortunately is not available. And they have to really depend on either informal channels or on the distributor itself for that credit. So that is one. And at this point, in fact, what happens is that since they do not have access to formal credit lines, it also impacts their purchase decisions. Purchase decisions which are not really optimized, they lead to an imperfect assortment, which again has a vicious cycle. It leads to loss of business, and their profitability overall suffers. It also limits the choices that the retailer have in terms of who they can buy from. Right? Their purchase decision or their assortment is not just a function of those credit lines, but also, who is giving them that credit. We have seen that retailers today are fairly digital savvy. They do, browse through internet, they discover different manufacturers, different products, different promotions, and they would like to, stock those products in their shop. But unfortunately, they're unable to kind of stock those products because they're not sure whether even after they make the payment, they will receive the shipment, what will be the product quality, and likewise. ePayLater solves these challenges for them. ePayLater tells them that you have a credit line, a sizable credit line up to 25 lakh rupees, which you can get in just 5 minutes, and then you can decide who you want to buy from, what you want to buy, no questions asked, and this is an interest-free credit for you, right? And this completely allows retailer to make best business decision which they believe is for them, their business. On the distributor side, again, there are a number of challenges, right? Distributors historically, while we believe that they have been doing demand generation and doing logistics and all, but one necessary evil that the distributors are having to deal with is credit risk and associated collection hassles, right? When we met distributors, they tell us that a good part of their bandwidth was just getting consumed in determining who should they give credit to and then collecting money from the market. And a good percentage of times, in fact, more than a good majority of cases, their payment would get delayed. And this would constrain their working capital. This would also create reconciliation hassles. This would also restrict their ability to replenish their stock, and likewise. It also would, and since a lot of collections which happens on cash, it also creates a problem of visibility, right? At any point of time, if you ask a distributor how much money has been collected from the market and how much is still outstanding, probably you will not get a very accurate answer, because a lot of this has to, a lot of cash has to be reconciled and stuff. Now, these are all challenges, that restricts a distributor's ability to operate at market potential, right? So ePayLater solves the challenges for them. ePayLater tells distributors that, we are here, we will insulate you from all credit risk, as long as a transaction by a retailer or purchase by a retailer is happening on using ePayLater. You will get your money in your bank account as per an assured SLA, which could be, let's say, next day itself, no questions asked, right? So you don't have to worry about credit risk. You don't have to worry about collections. You can focus on sales and sales only. You can also expand your markets, because now you don't have to worry about credit risk in those markets or collections in those markets. And therefore, distributors have seen a phenomenal growth with ePayLater. We just did an analysis, and I would like to share this number with all of us here on the call. We realized that on an average, our distributors were able to grow their sales by as much as 3 times in just 6 months after partnering with ePayLater.
Those are really impressive numbers, Akshat. I don't think people sort of understand the impact that centralized credit or formal credit can have as a demand lever, but that answer really helps us sort of understand that. Right. Before I move on to the next question, we ran a poll when the webinar started to get a sense of how many people in our audience use BNPL. Some interesting answers here. So we had around 54% of the audience participate as part of this poll. A surprising 57% of these folks have never used BNPL before, which is very interesting for me, because I feel somewhere in the Klarna boardroom, somebody is worried about how India can be their next growth market, right? But interesting results here. What do you think, Akshat, in the context of this question, right? What do you believe is the current adoption of B2B BNPL in the context of downstream supply chain in India?
So I would, first of all, I would like to refer to this as trade credit, and B2B BNPL or trade credit is on fire. I mean, it's the adoption is growing, not linearly or exponentially. It's growing in quantum leaps. I can share some numbers that we are seeing. So in last 18 months, we have seen roughly 20 times growth in our business. We are today growing at 20% month on month, which is very, very healthy. We today are present in more than 12,000 pin codes in about 140 cities, and we work with about 14 lakh friends, those who are retailers. We also work with about 7,000 to 8,000 distributor partners, and it just shows the kind of value that our solution has been able to create for these stakeholders, and the kind of momentum that is there. In fact, I've seen the market coming up with certain interesting use cases of its own. For example, a lot of our retailer partners tell us today that because of ePayLater, they have also been able to improve their credit profile. Yeah, and this has allowed them wider access to other financial solutions which probably they otherwise did not have. Right. So those good developments are also happening, and we are very, very positive about what future holds in it for us.
Thank you so much for that, Akshat. Appreciate it. I am going to now move on to Sumit, right? Sumit, since you've been both a user and a promoter of BNPL, right? Given your dual responsibilities at Sampoon Marketing and at ePayLater, could you shed some light on how BNPL or trade financing is being used as a demand lever for downstream distribution?
Yeah, so for demand lever, see, before demand comes trust in the business. How rapidly, how fast, and how many people we can trust to deal with. So as Akshat said, credit is a big enabler for sales. But then how do I fulfill the market potential as fast as I can? So normally what happens is, if I move on to a new area, I'm offered a new coverage area by a company, by a new brand. Normally the pace at which I was able to cater before I was into BNPL was very slow. It took me months for our sales team to trust and extend credit to new retailers. Now this is not the case. So I consider this is a big demand lever for my company. And second would be, how do I fulfill the capacity? For example, normally the way it works is, our sales team goes to the market, and then they say that, so we don't have much of data points with us. In a traditional way, we don't have much data points with us. How do we evaluate a retailer for a proper credit limit? So our salesman goes to the market and says that, this retail shop is worth, say, 25,000 or 50,000 rupees of credit. So even though his demand is more, his market potential is more, we are not able to cater to the full potential, because we don't want to risk ourselves beyond a point. And I've seen that after BNPL, after ePayLater, we were able to extend credit line up to 1 lakh rupees, 2.5 lakh rupees to the same retailer, probably with whom we were working around 25,000 or 50,000 rupees of credit line. So that is how I see BNPL creating a demand for the business, and it is helping us. It is helping us to increase our risk appetite. Now I'm more comfortable with new brands. Earlier, whenever we used to classify brands as push brand or a pull brand. If it's a pull brand, this is a market pull, we were more comfortable because the demand generation was automatic and our credit was safe. But with a push brand, with a new brand which we were trying to push in the market, we were able to close better deal with those brands. We were able to close with higher margins for us, but we were not able to sell in the market with full confidence, because we know that we will not be able to recover credit for this particular brand. This is not the case with ePayLater now. So I'll say that on two fronts, we were able to cover more area, new coverage area, and second, in the existing area, we were able to push more brands, more new brands in the same area, and third, with the existing outlet, we were able to optimize, we were able to fulfill their 100% capacities. So in these three ways, BNPL has helped us create the demand in the market. Yes.
Thank you so much for that, Sumit. I asked you this question because you're in an interesting place, right? You've sort of been on the other side of the problem as well, right? So I just wanted to understand, right? How long have you been associated with ePayLater, and how did your journey with them begin?
So great. So I started my journey with ePayLater back in 2018. As you said, I was on the other side of the table. So I was approached by ePayLater's team, Akshat, Samir, Aishwarya, they were there, and then we were just talking about how we can onboard a distributor, what are the challenges a distributor faces in the market, and how we can properly address them. This is how our interaction started. And then, as you know, our technology takes time to evolve. Technology takes end user feedback. It needs to have end user feedback to evolve it to the stage where it becomes very smooth to use for mass usage. So this is where, like Akshat said to me, like then we were talking, and he said, why don't you join us? Why don't you join us instead of giving feedback from the outside? Why don't you join us and actually help us create the product that is beneficial for the distributor? And I mean, instead of just helping your business, probably you can help the industry as a whole. And that was a great value proposition. And I was seeing like ePayLater is doing a phenomenal job. Even at that time, they were doing a phenomenal job. So and there was a normally as you know, like ePayLater started their journey with modern trade business. So to have that vision that we are starting from modern trade business and now we want to encompass the GT, whatever fruits of technology are to be given to a big organized players, why can't it be given to traditional distributors? That was a great thought on their part. And I think at a DNA level, we had a match there that yes, we want to help the industry. And it was a great journey. Whatever suggestions were given from the industry perspective, from the distributors perspective, they were well incorporated. I'd like to add a particular point here because I mean that will help you, because the normally the kind of credit a distributor extends in the market is of I mean, I may be dealing with a retailer with lakhs of rupees credit to him, but there is no credit history that the bank is going or any financial institution is going to give any weightage to that kind of a credit history. So I may be working with a retailer for years together. He may be a very good paymaster, but no weightage will be given to that kind of a credit line, that kind of credit history by a financial institution. Now, suddenly when I'm deploying my credit through ePayLater, all the credit deployment becomes kind of, what do you say, legal, or like everything becomes more formal. Now, suddenly the retailer who is doing the kind of business he was doing before, doing the same routine business, he's able to build his CIBIL. So earlier the retailer or the distributor who was not eligible for a more formal kind of a loan, he is able to improve the CIBIL. He is able to improve this kind of access to more capital in the end. That was phenomenal. The whole proposition was phenomenal. So that is, now we started working on that. We made changes in the technology where we are able to help the distributor deploy the credit which is underwritten by him in a more formal way. So that was phenomenal. Yeah, it has helped the industry and the distributors and personally my business a lot. Yes.
That's great to hear, Sumit. I think the fact that you folks are driving the larger financial inclusion agenda as well is fairly inspiring. I just have one last question for you, Sumit. How did Sampoon's operations and outcomes evolve after you started using BNPL to drive demand?
So see, this process needs two to tango. We need buyers and sellers. So even as a seller, I am agreeing to a business. The buyer also has to agree to do business in the BNPL format. Now, this is something which is more of an evolution. This is not going to happen overnight, that suddenly, all the retailers are going to one night, because I decided to transact with them on ePayLater, they'll suddenly convert. So it's an evolution, but as the kind of subset, the set that has migrated to ePayLater, we have seen around 2.7 times to 3 times of business growth. So which is phenomenal. So this is a ray of light. This is the hope that actually encourages my team to enroll more number of people, more number of retailers on ePayLater. And why does that happen? Why it is so? As I mentioned, like he's able to optimize his purchase. Number one, he's able to fulfill his capacities. I mean, whatever his demands are, now he's better placed to take benefit of the opportunities. Like Diwali is around the corner now. Now suddenly the cash demand is going to rise. How is going to cater to this spot requirement? So this is where BNPL comes into picture and is able to gain. We are able to gain on turnover. Retailer is able to gain on the business side. So we have seen that there's a 3 times, 2.7 times to 3 times of increase in the business. And second, for Sampoon marketing, now, as I said, like we have a greater risk appetite now, and we are able to expand beyond our regular geography. Earlier, we used to cater to say Noida, Leh, and probably few cities, Jammu. But now we are able to cover Western UP in entirety. And why is that possible? Because I'm not worried about the credit recovery now. So yes, there has been a lot of change in business, and it's a wonderful journey. And I hope like more people, appreciate the importance of BNPL and how it is better left to the experts. As distributors, we are not experts in credit. We have very few data points with us. All we know is that there are 3 brothers working in the shop, and this shop is being run by somebody since last 20 years. Very few data points. We don't have access to their financial, financial history. But with BNPL, they are better placed. They are better placed to assess a particular customer and give him the optimum limit. And so let the experts do their job, and we are experts in sales, and let us do our job. So I think that's a great combination. That's a great partnership that comes into place with ePayLater. Yes.
Thank you so much for that insightful answer, Sumit. I really appreciate it. Again, Akshat and Sumit, thank you so much for speaking with us today. I want to open up this session for Q&A right now. But before I do that, I want to ask a question, and I'd ask all participants to drop their answers in the chat. What do you think is the ideal uplift that you would like to achieve by deploying BNPL in your businesses? So you can drop your answers in the chat now. Looking forward to learn more from your answers. We already have a couple of questions in the chat. Once we have answers coming in for this question, I will move on to opening it up for the larger audience. I think we already have 6 questions. Some of them are fairly fast for us to answer. They'll be quick answers. Some of them are a little more convoluted. I think that will take us a bit more time. Great. So let me just open this up for the general audience to ask questions. So folks, please drop your questions in the chat now. We already have a couple of questions, I think 7 questions. I'll start with the first one. So Praneeth asks, is there any recourse on RS, I will assume this is distributor, or the brand in case of default by the retailer? Akshat, if you could just help Praneeth understand how the distributor and the brands are indemnified when it comes to credit in this case, that would be great.
Sure. So thanks, Akshat. Thanks, Praneeth, for asking the question. So Praneeth, there is no risk on the manufacturer or the distributor, or if I may just club them under the term sellers. There is no credit risk on seller. ePayLater will insulate seller from all credit risk. If the purchase by the buyer is being done by using ePayLater, the seller will get the money from ePayLater, and ePayLater will pay you on behalf of the buyer as per a pre-agreed SLA. SLA could be T+1, which means we'll pay you on the next year of transaction, or T+2, or whatever we agree with, right? But irrespective of that, we will insulate you from credit risk. God forbid, if something goes wrong, the retailer does not pay, which is your question, then there is no financial implication of it on your business. It's a seller's business.
Great. Praneeth, I hope that answers your first question. Praneeth, second question is BNPL available for rural retailers? The short answer is yes. I think, Akshat, it would be great if you could talk about your coverage. I think that would be really useful here.
Sure. So, Brent, we are already covering a lot of rural markets. Like I shared with the group, we are present in 12,000 pin codes already, which is a good percentage of which falls in non-urban, semi-urban, or rural markets as well. and we are continuously expanding. By end of this year, we are expecting to cover more than 15,000 pin codes. In fact, a good part of that growth is going to come from non-urban markets. So, answer to this question is a big yes.
Great to hear that. The next question is a question asked by Rajan. I think there are questions in a similar vein here. So I'll try and club these questions. So can credit be extended to other CPG sectors, segments beyond FMCG? Is part A of the question. And can it be extended to segments which are adjacent to the CPG industry, like building materials and chemicals?
So actually, yes and no. So the way ePayLater works is, we would insulate the sellers from credit risk, in segments which we cater to, and those segments largely fall under FMCG and CPG verticals. However, for certain verticals where we do not have a natural comfort, and buildings, for example, building material is one such, there we can still extend a technology solution together with Bizom, wherein, like Sumit had mentioned, the credit could be facilitated and managed, and collections could be automated using ePayLater. Yeah, the sellers and buyers will continue to generate digital trails, and that could be used in various ways. Right. However, ePayLater would probably want to explore a way wherein the credit risk is shared between ePayLater and the seller. Yeah.
Great. Okay. I think specifically two more segments that I'd ask about, right? One would be the fashion industry, so fashion retailers and white good retailers. Would these be segments that you operate in?
So yes, we do operate in these segments. Though to be honest, our experience and our expertise is best when it comes to segments that are largely falling under food and groceries and FMCG. The other segments, white goods or electronics, we do. In fact, that's another segment that falls under our expertise zone. Fashion, we have a footprint in fashion, but we basically are in a relatively smaller sphere when it comes to fashion. We are operating in just a few areas and in a very specific kind of stock, which is very fast moving. Could be footwear, or could be UGs and a few other segments. But yeah, we are happy to explore it further.
Great. So Rajan and Alvin, I hope that answers your question as well as yours, Prakash. Let me ask a few more questions. Let me move on. So Rajan asks, is the past transactional history between brands and their retailers something that factors into the credit being offered? And in this case, what about startups?
Sorry, actually, I couldn't follow the question very well.
Right. I think it was a fairly ambiguous question, but I think what's being asked here is, how can perhaps D2C startups or new startups in the FMCG CPG space leverage our solution? So, see,
in fact, a BNPL solution in general is a fantastic news for younger manufacturers or younger companies, newer brands in the setup, because one of the biggest challenges, as we understand, the new brands face is creating a distribution network. And one of the challenges they face in building a distribution network is agreeing on the kind of credit their distribution partners would be extending downstream and all. So if the distribution network that you're looking to set up in order to reach your end consumer involves a retailer and a distributor/wholesaler, then BNPL solution like ePayLater can be readily leveraged. However, if you are selling to a consumer directly over internet or through other channels, frankly, we would probably not have much role to play, because your billing is happening to a retailer and billing is happening to a consumer directly and not to a retailer. So end consumer leg is a tertiary leg, and at this point of time, we are not operating in the tertiary leg.
Got it. Thank you so much for that, Akshay. I think next question is Alvin's, who asks, how soon can brands sign up for B2B BNPL? I'll answer one part of this question. From an enablement perspective, it would take us 30 days to enable this product for our clients. What happens during this 30-day period is obviously a lot of onboarding in the background that ePayLater facilitates, which would be direct onboarding for distributors as well as retailers that we are looking to enable this for as part of the first batch of retailers. As we move forward, onboarding would then partly be taken over by the sales teams themselves, or could totally be run digitally or via ePayLater's feet on street as well, right? So typically our recommendation to our clients is to use that 30-day period while we enable the product for them to empower and onboard the first batch of retailers that we are looking to onboard, and then on a monthly basis keep adding new retailers. I think this is something of interest for the larger audience as well. What is the sort of scale at which we can deploy this solution, and how fast can we onboard new brands, new sellers, new buyers as well?
Sure. So this is a solution which can be very rapidly deployed. In fact, the best part about the solution is that you will start seeing business returns very, very quickly. Right? So we are not looking at a 6-month, 12-month period before we really start seeing business value. You will start seeing it in weeks, not even months. Why? Because number one, it's very, very quick and easy to onboard both the seller as well as buyer. Seller onboarding is just a few minute process, and buyer onboarding, believe it or not, before we end this meeting, any buyer in any part of the country can get a credit line, ePayLater credit line up to 25 lakh rupees by just downloading our, or by just signing up digitally. Yeah. So that's how quick it is. It's just a process which takes 5 to 10 minutes for the buyer, and maybe even less than that for the seller. A lot of buyers who you are currently selling to would probably be already on ePayLater. Right, and which means that starting right away, you can start billing them using ePayLater. Probably you can create bigger orders with them, and you can also streamline your collections and cash reconciliation and some of those things. Right. So it's absolutely rapid. We can get going right away. Like Akshay mentioned, there is a warm-up time of about 4 to 5 weeks that we would need to set up the system and everything, but that is it. After that, it's absolutely good to go.
Thank you so much for that, Akshay. We are almost at the fag end of the webinar. I'll just take up one more question. Alvin had asked about whether it would be relevant to a category like Eureka Forbes, which is white goods. I think we've already answered that. Prakash asks, do you have any plan to extend the service outside India, especially SAARC? I think, Akshay, this is something for you to address later on. Sujit and Rakesh want to partner with Akshay. I think, folks, you can write to him directly. That it possibly be a better use of his time. Rohit asks, and this is, I think, a very pertinent question. So let's just try and answer this. Who is the lender in this case, right? Is it ePayLater, or do you have any partnerships in place with other NBFCs and banks?
That's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. So good news is that we have an NBFC of our own, and the credit resides on the books of NBFC. That is to ensure that anything and everything we do is congruent with the laws of land. Yeah. So there's a play happening between a technology company which is also owned by ePayLater and an NBFC which is also owned by ePayLater.
Thank you so much for answering that. Sahil asks, do you operate in the pharma B2B chemist segment? I would assume the answer is yes.
Yes.
Rajan, okay. Alok asks, how is the credit limit for a particular retailer decided? Nirmal Kumar asks, is that available in Tamil Nadu? How to contact? Any DSA model available? Nirmal, you can write to us at marketing@bizom.com. More than happy to help you understand how you can get this started for your partners. Alok, to answer your question, credit limit for a particular retailer is decided by essentially assigning them a credit risk, which is quantified. Nothing fundamentally different from how a traditional bank does it. Obviously, what is different is the inputs and the calculation and everything else. But in terms of the output or the general underwriting process, that remains the same. Right? And again, this is where the secret sauce is. So please don't expect an answer that covers this in detail. But I think this is a great point for us to close the session. We're already 3 minutes above our time. So again, once more, thank you, Sumit and Akshat, for an insightful and energizing discussion. To the audience present here, thank you for joining us to learn more about how your business can maximize its sales and distribution efforts with a structured credit line like BNPL. Stay tuned. We'll be sharing more details on how your business can enable buy now, pay later for your channel partners over email. If we haven't addressed any questions that you feel are pertinent, and if you want to share your takeaways from our session today, please do so over email. You can write to us at marketing@bizom.com, or you can post on LinkedIn and tag us at Bizom, BIZOM. Thank you once more, everybody, for joining us today, and have a great day. Cheers.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah. Thank you, Akshay.
Thanks, Aman. Thanks, Akshay. Thanks, everyone.